Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Superfan.
We're just hanging out here with the little guy, and we're gonna talk about the trailer, or teaser, I guess we should say teaser, for the upcoming film, Have You Got It Yet? The story of Syd Barrett and Pink Floyd. You know, I've always thought there's two periods of Pink Floyd. There's Pink Floyd before Dark Side of the Moon, and Pink Floyd after Dark Side of the Moon. And I've always felt there are really two types of Pink Floyd fans. The really hardcore Pink Floyd fans who know both the pre-Dark Side of the Moon albums and the post-Dark Side of the Moon albums. I consider the first group to be the really serious hardcore fans. And I will say, guilty as charged, I'm not one of them. Until recently, I've been in the camp where Pink Floyd starts with Dark Side of the Moon moving forward. Now, with that said, I think that group of fans who only know Pink Floyd starting at that point are hardcore about the albums that were released from that point forward. I think they can be very hardcore about it, but they just haven't experienced the earlier. And I'm, like I said, part of that camp that until recently didn't go prior to Dark Side of the Moon. That has recently changed. For the last month or so, I've listened to the album Metal. That was my first album prior to that time period that I listened to. Have really enjoyed it a lot. I have been saying for the longest time that I need to explore
Early Pink Floyd
prior to Dark Side of the Moon, which includes the Syd Barrett era and includes the era where it's that time in between without him prior again to Dark Side of the Moon.
I haven't been a fan of either, really.
No, you really haven't. You know Pink Floyd because you live with me.
I know Pink Floyd because of The Wall. Mainly.
Well, tell me what you mean by that.
The movie.
The movie. So you are familiar with the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember, of course, seeing the movie when it came out. I'm just curious. I mean, I figure you primarily know the music more because you live with me and you've heard me play the music.
That is true.
You've heard it, and you've heard me play it in the car when I'm driving.
Yeah.
And was it because you work at a record store? Is that why you know the movie?
Well, no, I saw a midnight screening of the movie.
Yeah.
When I was in high school.
Okay. Did you like the movie?
I found it to be kind of disturbing,
Uh-huh.
and I think that was the point.
I would say so.
But it's also got the Bob Geldof connection, too.
Yes, who you'd be more into, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about this in the past, but in case you're new to the channel, and by the way, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. But we've talked about this before, but for those of you who might be new, Superfan and I come from different musical eras. I am more rooted in the 70s era of classic rock, whereas you are more rooted in the 80s era, which was the new wave,
kind of the
new romantic era.
I'm a little bit country.
Well, I don't know if I'd make that comparison.
Well, no, I'm being sorry.
Yeah, I get it.
It's eras of music rather than genres.
Yeah. I have a close friend who's been a longtime Pink Floyd fan, who has listened to all of it. And he said to me, there's a couple good things in the from the stuff prior to the Dark Side of the Moon. There's this, there's that. But he would say to me, you're not missing much, is what he'd say to me. Still, I feel I should listen to it so that I can better understand where they came from. So, with that said, we just watched the teaser for this new film that's coming out soon. I fully intend to see it.
I'll see it.
Yeah. And I know you've seen documentaries on bands you have no interest in because you're interested in the story behind them even
Yeah.
if you're not that interested in the music, which is something I've always wanted to say out loud on this channel. I know some people who won't watch a documentary about a music group that they say they have no interest in. And I always say you should watch it because their story can still be interesting. And you might suddenly realize, hey, I do want to start listening to them and find out a little bit more. That has certainly happened to me in my lifetime, where I've watched a documentary about a musician or a music genre that I had previously little to no interest in, and became more curious and expanded my taste as a result. So the teaser, basically it feels like this film is just going to explore the early days, the early genesis of the band, which, you know, Syd Barrett named the band. And it's interesting to note that he's had this huge impact, because while I haven't listened, I have read, and you've read too, of course,
Yeah.
about his impact, that even while he played on some of their early singles, he wrote and performed on the early singles, he was part of the band then, he was part of the band for the first two albums. The album that followed, he contributed somewhat, but after that, he was no longer a contributing member of the band. And there was this period prior to Dark Side of the Moon where they were a band without him. And yet, in spite of the minimal amount of time spent on their recordings, only being on the first two albums and a few singles prior to that, his impact on other musicians,
Well, his impact,
many of them very influential, is quite huge.
his impact on Pink Floyd.
Yeah, his influence on the band. You bring up a good point. I mean, back in the day, I knew about Syd Barrett. I knew that I didn't know the full story. I wouldn't say I know the full story now, but I knew that he had been a member of the band and that he had apparently suffered from some kind of mental illness. And it seemed like the majority of their best work, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and The Wall, was inspired to probably a great extent on their experiences with him.
Yeah. He may not have been an active member of the band, but he still had a significant influence on their music.
So let me ask you, as somebody who is, I would describe as not into Pink Floyd, what did you think of the teaser?
It looks interesting. It looks like it could be, definitely worth watching. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely going to want to see this film. Hopefully, I will get to see it in a theater, I'm hoping. We'll see what happens. I have no idea what the release is going to be like. Sometimes these films can only get limited releases in certain theaters, and it becomes too difficult to be able to attend one of those theater screenings. But we'll see what happens. I don't expect this to get a wide release. I'm not anticipating that. Yeah, I'm just not anticipating that. I don't think there's enough interest for that to happen, but hopefully we'll see. I can see this movie probably doing a lot better on streaming at that point. It's been percolating in me for a while. Just seeing this teaser has really kind of made me think to myself, before this film comes out, let's start listening to the earliest stuff. And also there's his solo work,
Yeah.
which I was not as aware of. In fact, there's a lot of things about him that I've only just recently learned. For some reason, I thought he died a lot earlier than he did. But apparently, he lived a lot longer than I thought. I wasn't aware that he was a recluse for roughly about 30 years or so.
Yeah. He passed away in
2006.
2006.
Okay, yeah, 2006, 2007, that's what I was thinking. I'd always known that there was some sort of association with mental illness. Obviously, drug use played some part in it, but his sister apparently stated in interviews that she didn't feel he had a mental illness. She felt that he had Asperger's. Stated that everybody in the family is on to some degree or another, was on that scale.
On the spectrum.
The spectrum, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. The spectrum of, different levels of that spectrum. That's an interesting thought. And of course, I also have to think that was caused, of course, probably very complicated by the drug use. It sounds like his drug use was pretty, what's the word I'm looking for?
Intense.
Intense. Thank you. But yeah, I think this
Yeah,
taser
that
is.
was the thing that was going on at the time, though, too.
Yeah, and like anything else, there are some people who can deal with that type of thing better than others.
Yeah.
There are some people who can, do psychedelics and move on. And there are some people who it's not that easy. Clearly, Syd Barrett was someone who couldn't walk away that easily, who couldn't kind of make his way back home, so to speak, from what I've learned and read so far. I'm sure I'll learn a lot more once I see this film too. Apparently, it does include interviews with the other members of Pink Floyd. How old or recent these interviews are, I don't know. You were mentioning to me before we shot this that it appears that the surviving members, even though they had to fire him, they kind of did their best to kind of take care of him, help him out.
Yeah, it looks like, and mainly David Gilmour made sure he got royalties.
Yeah.
And he was included in the Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in 1996, I believe that was.
And David Gilmour did try to help him with his solo recordings. Roger Waters, I believe, also did as well.
Yeah.
Of course, they were childhood friends.
It's a subject we're looking forward to learning more about.
Yeah, and I think this has finally really lit the fire underneath me to start listening to the early stuff, even if it's just on a purely analytical level, just to kind of better understand this. And I would say as prep before I see this film.
Given the effect that how much influence he had on so many
other artists,
other significant artists.
Yeah, Bowie. I mean, yeah, there's quite a list there.
R.E.M.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important that that I explored a little bit more listening. Hopefully you can listen to some of it with me.
Well, I'm sure I'll be around for it.
Those are our thoughts after taking a look at this teaser. Let us know if you've watched it. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you're going to go see it or you're going to wait for it to come to streaming. And hopefully we can follow up and talk more about the film once it releases. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. And I want to thank the patron supporters for all that they do.
You are fierce and mighty.
Patron supporters receive exclusive weekly videos not available here on the channel. And if you can't be a patron supporter, we understand. Just maybe do give us a one-time super thanks. Or if you can't do that, just click like and share these videos with anyone you think might be interested. And so those are our thoughts. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you again for hanging out. It means a lot. And we'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.